बुद्धियुक्तो जहातीह उभे सुकृतदुष्कृते तस्माद्योगाय युज्यस्व योगकर्मसु कौशलम्.
One endowed with wisdom abandons both virtue and vice. Tasmat, therefore, be absorbed in yoga. Yoga is proficiency in action. These are all highly inspiring verses. So, to begin with, let's get down to the basics. The choice that all of us have is yoga or bhoga. Bhoga is the path of enjoyment, the materialistic path that we are all seeking. We're chasing after desires all the time. You wake up in the morning, you have several desires, you rush after them, you come back at night, some are fulfilled, some are not fulfilled. Next morning you wake up, the same thing goes on, not just day after day, year after year, life after life. You're born again and again, punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, punarapi janani jathare shayanam, again and again this thing goes on. And you have to see, it's frightening. What is frightening is not death, birth is frightening. You see a child, born an infant, what a terrible life that infant has. It can't express itself. When it's hungry, if the mother doesn't understand, that poor child has to starve. It cries and cries and cries. Nobody understands why the child is crying. It is forced to do things it doesn't like to do. It cannot do what it likes to do. And this goes on till you become an adult, a teenager. And then you become rebellious. And you're fighting everybody. You don't know why you're fighting. And then you become a full-grown adult and you commit a series of mistakes. You die again, the same story all over again. So when you look at a child, you enjoy the child, he's a lovable child, but deep down you must understand, oh my God, I don't want to go through this again. That is wisdom. Therefore, you need to be endowed with wisdom to just live life properly, happily, successfully. Never mind even if you don't want enlightenment. But just these two. Therefore, wisdom, knowledge is very, very important. Please gain that. Those of us who are lucky, we consider ourselves lucky not because of the material comforts we had, not because of anything else, but just that we were exposed to this knowledge and wisdom, this most invaluable thing, early in life. Early enough so that we had the opportunity to take to this path and benefit from this knowledge. Otherwise, we would have been like anyone else. Not that please don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that we've reached any great heights. Just the exposure to the knowledge. Inspired conversation. We were introduced to books by Swami Ramatirtha, Swami Vivekananda, explained these things at home. At bedtime stories, when we woke up in the morning, the grandfather used to collect us, all the grandchildren together, and tell us inspiring stories. It is this that remains with you. And then when you're a teenager and you're tempted by various things in the world, what helps is not rules and regulations. The parents are the ones who impose rules and regulations. Like you have to be home before dark. And now it is they have to be home before dawn. No parents have control over their children. At least, beta, before the sun rises, you come home. And anyway, it's no use imposing rules and regulations, especially with modern technology. You have no idea what your children are up to. But what helps is the inspiration that you instill in them in childhood. You can only pass it on if you are inspired. No? What inspiration will you give? You become a millionaire. Big deal. How inspiring is it? Or don't pay income tax. That's the message that children get nowadays. It's all right. Do all wrong things. You'll get away with it. I'll bail you out. So that is bhoga. It's a miserable life. Or the choice is yoga. You are inspired with the higher. You fix an ideal. and focus all your activities towards that ideal. The higher the ideal, the greater is your creativity, greater is the energy that you generate within yourself, and you become a towering personality. Most importantly, you don't function on likes and dislikes. So what happens is, when you perform actions driven only by desire, desire-driven good actions, you cultivate more good vasanas. Vasanas, as we've all seen earlier, is unmanifest desire. So let's say you are a charitable person, you want to do good to people, but you are doing it only because you have a desire. You cultivate more such desires. You're still stuck to the world. You will still go through all this birth, death. When you perform actions driven by bad, negative desires, you will cultivate more negative vasanas. So either way you're stuck. That's why he says you need to abandon both virtue and vice and follow the middle path, madhya pantha, as Buddha said. Here in the Gita it says, senayor ubhayor madhye, between the two armies, between the positive and the negative. What must you do? Just do your karyam karma, your obligations. Set aside your likes and dislikes. So you act with no desire. No desire? How can you act? Because you have a desire to evolve spiritually. You have a desire to just become a better human being. You have a desire to someday I must get to that state of enlightenment. Once that gets to you, then with reference to the world you have no desire. The desire for enlightenment is beyond the world. So for all practical purposes, you have no desire. When you act, just do your obligatory duty without any desires. You shed your existing vasanas. You grow spiritually, and someday you'll get to enlightenment. That's what he's saying here. So then he says, yogaha karmasu kaushalam. Proficiency of action is yoga. In verse 48, just 2 verses back, he said, samatvam yoga uchyate. Equanimity, serenity of mind is yoga. Now the question that arises in your mind is, which one is it? Is it serenity? Is it proficiency? It is both. It is only when the mind is calm that your thinking is clear and your actions are brilliant. If the mind is agitated, you can't tap into your own talent, and knowledge is inaccessible to you, and actions become flawed. So that's what he's saying. Next, 51.